Hi folks, I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. I am Secretary of State Sarah Copeland-Hansis, and I am standing here along the Winooski River just behind my office on State Street. You can see the debris and the silt and the water line. You know, Toni Morrison wrote, they straightened out the river in places to make room for houses and livable acreage. Occasionally the river floods these places. Floods is the word they use. But in fact, it's not flooding. It's remembering where it used to be. Well, we have a lot of work to do to clean up from the latest remembering. It's been a dark, difficult, and frightening summer for so many of our neighbors in Vermont. But we have some deeper reckoning we need to do about our role in fueling these climate disasters. If there's anything this summer has driven home to me, it's that climate change is not a theoretical future that we can ignore out of concern for the cost of renewable energy or the challenge of resilience measures or the inconvenience of adaptation. Every single day this summer, I looked face to face at the devastating loss, the incredible cost of Kelly's lost home, the overwhelming challenge of Mary Kay's lost business. The word inconvenience is too trivial to describe the heart-wrenching sight of downtown Barrie or Ludlow or Johnson or Montpelier. Every couch and bed and dresser, every store fixture, and every bit of inventory out of so many homes and businesses. The time to act on climate is now. Since I can't be with you in the room, it's difficult to know for sure, but I imagine many of you are my friends and allies who are not at all surprised to hear me say the words climate action now. I've been with you, working alongside you on all these efforts for so many years. The Secretary of State's office is not necessarily what you think of when you think of a statewide climate hub. And some of you even suggested that I shouldn't run for the position for the loss of my voice in the Climate Solutions Caucus. If you were one of the folks who thought that, I hope to prove you wrong, because what I said to my climate allies a year ago is that I happen to think Vermont needs to elect more leaders who wake up every day thinking about climate change. We don't have time to sit around and wait for other leadership, to wait for the head of another agency to do their part. And you know what? Free, fair, and safe elections are the best way for Vermonters to demand that our leaders act on climate. Young people get it. That's why I'm committed to civics in schools and voter engagement programs that will help every Vermonter use the democratic process to accomplish the things that are too big for any of us to do on our own. A mid-July morning, I woke up to drive to Londonderry. Gloves, boots, sunscreen, snacks, drinking water replenished. I was ready to put my back into flood cleanup. I was in the car picking silt from under my fingernails from a day shoveling mud at Dante's Market in Barrie and thinking about the tremendous losses that I had seen. When it occurred to me, every fossil fuel appliance and furnace that's replaced this summer is baking in 30 years of emissions, and we can't afford that. There are many of you in this room who played a key part in the work that Vermont is doing to support the installation of less polluting alternatives. Some of you were already thinking the same thing I was before I called you that day. It's a long drive from my home to Londonderry, so I pitched this to everyone I could think of. And I was so proud to see Efficiency Vermont's rollout of the program last week. There's more we need to do. That's why I also penned an op-ed calling on the governor to support that Efficiency Vermont flood relief program, to direct his appointees to the Climate Council to shift into emergency response. I asked him to direct his agency of natural resources to be willing partners in the development of the Clean Heat Standard and support legislation that ensures we get to 100% renewable electricity by the end of the decade. Before I sent out that piece, I sat down with the governor. I wanted to ask him, one leader to another, one parent to another, to please consider treating climate action with the same focus, respect for science, and sense of urgency he did in his COVID response, and that we're putting into flood response this summer. Thanks to the hard work of allies in this room, we've accomplished one of those things. Let's keep the conversation up about the rest. Please ask this administration to put their gloves on and get to work on the 2030 climate plan, the renewable energy standard, clean heat, and treating climate like the emergency it is. I'm proud to give you a look at the work my agency is doing to make sure every shoulder is put to the wheel on this. The most logical nexus of the Secretary of State's Office to climate action is through our Office of Professional Regulation. We register residential contractors who do projects valued over $10,000 in Vermont homes. We've followed through with our promise to create a map so that Vermonters can find a contractor in their area. Next, we'll turn to our professionals in the industry to identify appropriate certifications that will show homeowners which contractors have specialized training in building efficiency and renewable energy. Vermont has building codes that help ensure our homes and commercial buildings are as efficient as possible, saving everyone on the cost of energy and emissions. Up until now, those codes are voluntary, which leaves many Vermonters with homes that leak heat in the winter and are increasingly difficult to keep comfortable in the extreme summer heat. The Secretary of State's Office is the state agency sponsor of the Department of Energy grant for resilient and efficient building codes. And we're actively participating in the Act 47 Study Committee, which is looking at building code structure in Vermont. We need to empower Vermonters to build more efficient and greener homes and businesses. In an altered climate, weather events are going to be more extreme. The rivers will remember again. And the costs and the challenges and the inconvenience of inaction are mounting. I'm happy to be with you today to pledge my commitment to doing everything in my power to mitigate future suffering by ending our reliance on fossil fuels. My deputy, Lauren Hibbert, is with you today on the panel, and she'll be happy to answer any questions you have about our work. Thank you.